So Donald Trump made some positive headlines when he picked a relatively pro-labor uh, labor secretary, but it was widely expected that he would make certain moves at the NLRB, and it was not so expected that he'd make others. However, Trump fires EEOC and labor board officials, setting up legal fight. It wasn't a surprise when President Trump fired National Labor Relations Board General Counsel Jennifer Abruzzo late Monday. She was a Biden appointee who had used the agency to expand workers' rights. She expanded workers' rights so much that it was okay to rubber stamp a genocide with your vote. That's how much they expanded
Yeah.
workers' rights under Biden.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that didn't make it into the NPR article. Yeah, forgive the editorial bent here. It's a bit libby, but the facts are the facts. But Trump went further, also firing Democratic board member Gwynne Wilcox in an unprecedented move that she has vowed to fight in court. Due to existing vacancies, Wilcox's ouster leaves the board with just two members, short of the quorum it needs to adjudicate even routine cases. The board, when fully staffed, has five members. So by denying it a quorum, you essentially make it a useless agency at this point.
Yeah.
They've
It
essentially
can't
deballed.
operate.
Right. It's inoperable. So now the NLRB is basically inoperable.
They do not have a minion at the
Right. Yeah.
NLRB.
Exactly, yes. With this move, Trump has effectively shut down the NLRB's operations, leaving the workers it defends on their own, AFL-CIO President Liz Schuler said in a statement. These moves will make it easier for bosses to violate the law and trample on workers' legal rights on the job and fundamental freedom to organize, she wrote. President Trump also abruptly fired two Democratic commissioners at the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission late Monday. While courts have upheld the president's authority to remove the NLRB's general counsel, so that was the first one, Jennifer Abruzzo, the National Labor Relations Act states that board members can be removed for neglect of duty or malfeasance in office, but for no other cause. A 1935 Supreme Court case known as Humphrey's Executor established limits on the president's power to remove officials who perform quasi-legislative or quasi-judicial functions as NLRB board members do. In a statement, Wilcox called her firing illegal. I will be pursuing all legal avenues to challenge my removal, which violates long-standing Supreme Court precedent, she wrote. Since their appointments in 2021, Wilcox and Abruzzo have had taken broad views of the protections had taken broad views of the protections labor law offers workers. That's a clumsily written sentence. Wilcox, a former union lawyer, wrote that as the first black woman to serve on the labor board, I brought a unique perspective that I believe will be lost. As the agency's prosecutor, Abruzzo worked to remove barriers to organizing, most recently winning a board ruling outlawing captive audience meetings. Those are the propaganda meetings that they hold, that Amazon held. Remember in the documentary that we saw, they would hold those meetings, which is a violation of the law to try and dissuade people from voting yes.
Hey, kids, Jeff Bezos is your friend.
Yes, exactly. Or mandatory meetings at which employers try to dissuade workers from unionizing. Her approach toward protecting workers' rights and holding employers accountable has raised the ire of many in the corporate world. The NLRB faces more than 24 lawsuits brought by companies, including, SpaceX and Amazon, who say the agency's structure gives it unchecked power to shape and enforce labor law. SpaceX was founded by Trump advisor and billionaire Elon Musk, and we all know Bezos tried currying favor with Trump as well. So those two companies both suing the NLRB. In his first term, Trump's general counsel at the labor agency was Peter Robb, a management-side labor attorney who served as lead counsel for President Ronald Reagan during the air traffic controllers strike in 1981. Surprised that guy was still alive. Last week, Trump named Marvin Kaplan, the sole Republican board member on the NLRB, as chair. It's unclear when or even if Trump will fill the 3 vacant seats. Well, if Elon and Bezos get their way, he won't, because with 3 vacant seats, that leaves only 2 occupied, which is not a quorum of 50% or more, which means they are essentially a defunct organization as of this moment. The ouster of Wilcox and Abruzzo came just hours after workers at a Whole Foods market in Philadelphia voted 130 to 100 to join the United Food and Commercial Workers Union. The grocery chain, of course, is owned by Amazon, which is already mired in legal fights over efforts to unionize workers at its warehouses. In a statement, Abruzzo highlighted work the NLRB accomplished under Biden, empowering workers to seek better wages, benefits, and working conditions. There's no putting the genie back into the bottle, Abruzzo wrote. So if the agency does not fully effectuate its congressional mandate in the future, as we did during my tenure, I expect that workers with assistance from their advocates will take matters into their own hands in order to get well-deserved dignity and respect in the workplace. And yes, it does fall to workers themselves not to rubber stamp a genocide in exchange for labor protections that Joe Biden offers in this context, not in other contexts. As we know, the railroad workers, that was the major strike opportunity of his time, and he intervened on the side of management for that. But it falls to workers to organize themselves. That is why we are doing everything we can to make as big a splash as we can at Workers Strike Back later this month, because now you have an anti-labor president in office who has essentially shut down the NLRB. Yep. And so there is no bureaucracy in place to represent workers. That's why you need grassroots worker-based organizations. Workers Strike Back is one of those, and this is a great opportunity to plug again. We are planning a super stream that day, a super stream starting at 10 a.m. Pacific, so it'll be 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll probably start the stream a half hour prior to festivities kicking off. Any one of our peers in this space who wants to stream our video, which will be a combination of the official Workers Strike Back feed and Russ's on-the-ground footage, is invited to do so and come on for a guest spot during that stream. We want to get 1 million views for Workers Strike Back on February 22nd. That is our goal, with the help of anyone who wants to join. Friends of ours, even if you're not friends of ours, we can let bygones be bygones.
Even if you hate us.
Even if you hate us, if you want to let bygones be bygones for a day at least and see how it goes, use our video. No, we won't put any claims in, nothing like that. Use our video. I mean, we never put any claims in anyway, but don't worry about that. Just use it and come on and be a part of it, because that's the only thing there is. That's the only thing there is left, is for workers to organize themselves.
Yep.
All right, I got a little bit more here. Accused of violating workers' rights, SpaceX and Amazon go after labor board. So
hang on, they're not coming to save us.
This was right after the election.
This is why I have no patience for these MAGA dick suckers who were screaming about Biden breaking a railroad strike, who all of a sudden want to go MAGA. Well, I don't agree with every. Shut the fuck up. Sit down and shut up. Sit down and shut up. The whole point of resisting the liberal project was not to embrace this.
Right, of course. So this was back in November, and we reported on this prior, but now that Trump has taken the exact action that these companies wanted, see, they were seeking to deball the NLRB in court, but why not just fire 3 members of the NLRB to make it so that it can't function anymore? So this was from back in November. This was referenced in the recent article. Accused of violating worker rights, SpaceX and Amazon go after Labor Board. In the nearly 4 years that Joe Biden has been president, the National Labor Relations Board has taken an assertive, some say overly aggressive, approach to protecting who are those some overly aggressive approach to protecting workers' rights to organize and collectively bargain. I guess the some would be, in this context at least, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. It was too much for their liking. Yeah. Now, SpaceX and Amazon are at the forefront of a corporate-led effort to monumentally change the labor agency. On Monday, attorneys for the two companies will try to convince a panel of judges at the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals that the labor agency, created by Congress in 1935, is unconstitutional. So they're trying to get it shut down in court. Now, you don't necessarily need that when you have a president whose guest house you're renting. Right. Yeah. He'll just deball it on your behalf through executive action. Yeah. Their lawsuits are among more than 24 challenges brought by companies who say the NLRB structure gives it unchecked power to shape and enforce labor law. A ruling in favor of the companies could make it much harder for workers to form unions and take collective action in pursuit of better wages and working conditions. The lawsuits brought by Amazon and SpaceX came after the NLRB issued complaints of its own. Agency investigations found the companies had violated the rights of their employees. At Amazon, the issue was the company's refusal to collectively bargain with the Amazon labor union. Workers at Amazon's Staten Island, New York warehouse voted to unionize in 2022. At SpaceX, the complaint involved 8 employees who said they were fired in retaliation for speaking critically of Musk. Now, I highlighted this. This is my highlighting because this is most relevant as it pertains to this story. The companies also find fault with the president's inability to fire NLRB board members who serve 5-year terms, and in SpaceX's case, its administrative law judges. Additionally, they argue the NLRB system for adjudicating cases denies them a right to a trial by jury. So I'll read that highlighted text again. That's why I highlighted it. In their lawsuits, the companies also mention fault with the president's inability to fire board members. Well, guess what? The president just did that. Right. So they're like, you know what? Fuck this lawsuit. Let's just do it and see what happens. And they'll sue us over it. Right? They actually mentioned in the lawsuit that the president should just be able to essentially disband the NLRB by fiat. And he has now done exactly that. Exactly that. And now it's going to be on whoever wants to sue the government saying, well, no, you can't do this. Well, good luck. Good luck. Because who has the courts? See how this all happens? You see how every institution has been so swallowed by capital. In this case, the richest man in the world, and what's Bezos? Bezos got to be still in the top 5. I know he's hurting a little bit now, but he's still more than 200 billion. Still about $600 billion worth of net worth between these two guys. They're able to just have their way with every institution that is designed to protect workers. And so that leaves workers with no other choice than to organize themselves. Not behind a Democratic Party who paved the way for this, and in many cases sabotage workers themselves, but behind grassroots worker-run organizations that can put pressure on the system no matter who the president is. What did the longshoremen do? A month before November, they said, we'll cripple you if you don't give us what we want. They got a wage increase. They locked that in. And then guess what happened? Trump did their bidding and got rid of the AI updates that management was looking to impose. And they thanked him for that, right? The idea is you could, if you're organized and you are no nonsense and you say, we will cripple you, meaning we will shut this fucking country down unless you give workers what they deserve, you could get even an anti-labor president like Donald Trump to be like, yeah, you know what? Politics aside, I need a functioning country. I need a functioning economy. So if you can exert leverage on Trump, you can exert leverage on everyone, but you have to have the conviction and the organization necessary to do so. Daggett did it. Sean Fain got half a loaf because he was a putz who was willing to take half a loaf. And part of the exciting opportunity of this Worker Strike Back conference, which I think of as sort of a relaunch of an actual left, is to build exactly that on exactly those terms. That's the only option there is at this point.
Well, and all of this begs the question, Sean O'Brien gave that whole interview with Tucker about how well he got along with Trump and how Trump was attentive to their interests. Well, you got a word in labor called solidarity. Where are you guys? Right. Where are you guys? Why aren't you speaking out about Trump gutting the labor board? Because that he might actually pay attention to. Oh, I made inroads with this new base and they might turn on me if I push it this far. Where are you guys showing solidarity with the Amazon workers, with the Whole Food workers? You guys have a big microphone. Daggett too. Speak up. Solidarity, man. Support your fellow workers.
Yeah, that's the only way. That is the only way. And of course, Whole Foods, as they mentioned, run by Amazon. Right. More Perfect Union put out a great video on that. We'd like to do that at some point. Yeah. Really worth watching the whole thing.
I'd like to get somebody from that drive on here.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. That would be worthwhile as well.
Please clap.